Bowden was ousted this morning in the middle of his 10th season as Clemson's coach. News 13's Stan Pamphilus joins us now with more. Stan, this didn't come as much of a surprise. The kids also heard from some Civil War soldiers, fiddle makers, and storytellers. The best invention since then, indoor heating.
I said the bathroom is the best indoor.
Yeah, you're right.
That's the best invention.
You're right.
Oh, it's going to be a pretty week, though, I think.
Very nice. And hopefully not cold. We called our state house leaders, we called our senators, we called the governor, and we've heard back only from a few of them today, and many residents along the river are breathing a sigh of relief. Sandra Endo is in Old Monroe, Missouri with the latest. Tammy, going off the grid means using the most renewable energy you can, and especially staying away from coal-fired power plants, using things like this. A minister of a mega church in Texas is accused of trying to solicit sex from a minor online. In today's Health Alert, Jay shows us her life-changing journey to America and how it's ending with hope and healing. David Roque showed up at the Henderson County Detention Facility to help his friend, Clarabelle Hernandez. She called him frightened this morning from Mills Manufacturing, which is a military contractor, to say that immigration had shown up and she didn't know what was going on. Roque and his friend are from El Salvador. Said he wasn't sure what he could do for her. During our interview with him, a representative from ICE approached Roque, who broke down in tears. 70 or so immigration agents raided the parachute manufacturer. The operation is the largest in western North Carolina so far.
We learned that there were approximately 60 illegal aliens that were employed at this business, and the aliens, in order to gain employment, provided fraudulent documents.
Officials won't elaborate on how they got that information, but their efforts netted dozens of arrests, mostly women from various Latin American countries. The detainees were processed in Henderson County, which is the only agency in western North Carolina that can take on a task like this.
We have to have certain detention standards, which are very complex. We have to have an agreement with the federal government. Essentially what that contract allows us to do is begin the deportation process at the local level.
ICE agents say they take humanitarian concerns like child care issues into consideration. Mills Manufacturing employs 175 people. Their workforce was significantly cut today, so they sent employees home. They'll have to regroup tomorrow. We actually talked to the owner of the company. In fact, that's why Brian Slack decided to paint over his sign, because he said it was causing a traffic hazard.
Just the same old story. The man keeps messing with me all the time. He knows I'm not on my medication and talks stuff about my children and my animals and everything else.
Brian Slack says he's been arguing with his next-door neighbor for years.
He's just out here one day doing the same old thing, arguing over the fence like we always do. And he's always egging me on and, you know, driving me nuts. This used to be about 4 acres of junk.
Slack admits that he might not have been the best neighbor at times.
I got children and animals and junk cars, and I drank a lot way back in the day, and so, you know, I mean, I run around here quite a bit, raised a little hell. But, you know, I mean, I've been trying to clean it up. As you can tell, there ain't nothing around here anymore. They shut me down. They took care of all my toys.
But he says this man, who did not want to be interviewed or even talk to us, went too far a few weeks ago.
I love you.
When he referred to Slack's granddaughter, Gia, in a derogatory manner.
I don't mean no offense to nobody. I love my grandbaby enough to piss that boy off.
I think it's pretty stupid. I don't, like, racism really bugs me.
But I love my G-baby.
Slack's daughter says her 7-month-old baby should be left out of the fight.
Have you even seen her? Like, she's really pretty and she's really happy all the time, always smiling and laughing.
The family hopes the sign will shame the neighbor.
Tell him to shut up and leave me alone. Quit yelling about my kids, quit yelling about my stuff.
And the Buncombe County Sheriff's Department tells us that the sign actually was within the law. It did not violate any county ordinances because there was no racial slur or offensive language actually spelled out, and it was on private property. Many natives of India have been frantically calling family and friends back home. Mumbai is one of the world's biggest cities. We talked to one man who calls it his hometown.
It's a fun place to be. It's lively. It's a city that never sleeps. I know New York is called the city that never sleeps, but Bombay's like that too.
Hemant Sudhanshu Kurvir refers to Mumbai by its old name, Bombay. He goes back to his hometown once a year.
And we're planning on going end of this month, and we're still going. We're not canceling, changing our plans. Talked to family and living in London, and they're planning on going to Bombay.
Kurvir has been to all of the sites that were targeted by terrorists. He and his wife stayed at the Taj, one of the world's most historic hotels, on their last visit.
It's just sad to hear that a place like that has been destroyed or isn't, it's getting this reputation now.
The attacks are tough for me to report on as well. I have family in the city and have been to some of the sites. Most memorable are Cafe Leopold and the Gateway to India next to the Taj. The AC in that hotel's lobby was always a welcome break from the heat of the city.
When I hear about blasts over there, of course I'm worried about my family, but at the same time I know they're okay. It's a big city, and it's a very resilient city.
India is a nation that has been dealing with extremism for decades. Kurvir says the most important thing is for people to go on with regular business.
Don't let the terrorists win. I mean, they're trying to create this fear. And again, our thoughts and prayers to everybody that was injured and died unfortunately in this attack.
Kurvir also hopes that those responsible can be brought to justice quickly. Well, the search continues in Henderson County for a man accused of trying to kill his...
The newest drug danger threatening mountain families is one that is easily and legally found.
Yeah, law enforcement says the prescription drug problem is now the drug of choice among teenagers. It's killing several teenagers each year right here in western North Carolina. News 13's Charu Kumarhia spoke to a young addict about the problems and possible solutions. Charu?
Well, Darcel, when we met 18-year-old Sky Youngblood, her mother, Tina, she had come to us desperate, out of ideas on how to help her drug-addicted daughter.
Every single day is waking up saying, how can I get my next pill?
Sky Youngblood is addicted to prescription drugs. She started popping pills around 11 years old.
The last time I OD'd, I did 3 Perk 30s, and I shot up one, like in my arm, and then I snorted 2.
How do you snort it? Why would you snort it? Or why would you take them? I don't know any of that.
Her mother, Tina, found out Sky was an addict when she was admitted to the ER and tested positive for drugs. Since that first visit, the family estimates she's been to the ER about 40 times in 4 years.
Like you hear yourself like flatlining, or you hear your heart rate going boop, 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 boop. I mean, you hear the beat of your heart rate and you're like, wow, that doesn't sound right. Or you're laying in your bed by yourself in the hospital once you've been in the ER for 2 days.
During several of those ER visits, Sky met Dr. William Temke, director of Park Ridge Hospital's emergency department.
30% of the time when we write a prescription for a narcotic, it ends up on the street, not being used by the person for the reason it was prescribed for.
Temke has seen patients in dire pain and addicts looking to score narcotics.
We don't want to be on either end of the threshold. You don't want to be so tight about it that someone leaves needing something for pain. On the other hand, you don't want to be known as the hospital that gives them out freely.
He sees about 1 or 2 ODs a week and has seen children as young as 9 years old come in drug addicted. His ER staff tries to quickly assess what drugs a patient is on and then stabilize them.
Just the look in his eyes, that's James.
In May, David Hensley's 20-year-old son James died from a prescription drug overdose. And James' twin brother Chance is in jail because of drugs.
He's doing anything that he can, or anything that he could at the time, to get the money or get something to trade for that next drug.
Serving time for crimes he committed to feed his drug addiction.
He's drying out in North Carolina State Prison System, and it's going to be there for probably another 18, 20 months.
Anybody can go to their doctor with any type of pain complaint and receive a prescription of pain medication. There doesn't say that you can't go to another doctor and do the same thing.
Chris Denny is part of Henderson County's drug unit and believes 10 to 12 teens die each year in Henderson County alone because of prescription drug abuse.
It's adding to the crime rate ultimately. They're stealing to get money to go buy the drugs and the pills.
The problem is so bad, the department stopped writing reports for stolen medicine.
When in reality, they've either taken all their medication or sold it. So basically we had to stop taking those reports because we were facilitating this going on.
He believes the problem is accessibility.
We have a lot of elderly people living in Henderson County. It's a nice retirement community, and because of that, I think that there's overprescribing going on.
Denny believes drugs are also coming into the area from Florida pain management clinics, where he says anyone can go in, get as many pills as they need, and take them out of the state.
And there's been a vehicle stopped in this county with several bottles of prescription medication in these people's name from a pharmacy in Florida, and it was prescribed by a pain clinic.
Law enforcement believes doctors should talk to patients about how addictive certain medications are and be required to enter prescriptions into a database like this one. Right now, cooperation is voluntary.
The doctors be required by law to check the database on every patient before prescribing a controlled substance. That would trim it down tremendously.
Right now, only the SBI has access to this database, and local authorities want that access as well.
Oh, I could have you a Percocet 30, which is the highest milligram that Percocet makes. It's a small itty bitty pill. It has no Tylenol in it. I could have you one in 5 minutes. You just call the right person, and you've got it.
On the days we met with Sky Youngblood, she seemed like a bright and beautiful teenager.
Oh my gosh.
But addiction rules her life.
I mean, there's times that you don't even want to take a pill, but you have to physically, or I mean, I have thrown up. I've been so sick, like fetal position, like begging hospitals to take me, like just bent over in pain from throwing up so much.
Sometimes her family doesn't see her for days.
All the time, I wait on a state trooper, a police officer, somebody to come and say, that's it. And I want her to get it. I want her to get that life. I want her to be able to live and to be free from addiction.
Come on, Olivia.
Her mother says there needs to be more rehab facilities, especially for young teens.
It's what my body craves 24/7, 7 days a week. That's what my head and my body tell myself. And at this point, like I said, it's more physical than it is mental.
And the other sad reality about prescription drug abuse is that treatment for addiction can also involve narcotics because withdrawal can be deadly. Detoxing offers its own set of challenges. Some even question if it can work without making people addicted to another substance. Darcel, Larry?
A woman is accused of trying to burn down her ex-husband's Madison County home. Good afternoon, I'm Darcel Grimes.
And I'm Frank Faboni. It happened off Joe Shelton Road near the Tennessee state line. News 13's Charu Kumarhia talked with the victim today.
Charu, this man was tipped off by a letter.
That's right, Darcel. Gerald Shelton has been married 3 times and is currently engaged. He says ex-wife number 3 got an anonymous letter from someone suggesting she burn his house down. He believes the letter came from ex-wife number 2, a woman who's been his neighbor for years.
Sharon comes first and foremost because I will take care of her as long as I live.
That's what Gerald Shelton tells every new woman he meets. He's let ex-wife number 2, Sharon Shelton, live on his property because he says she saved his life once.
I reached in and got a hold of a 110 motor and laid it in water, and she grabbed it and unplugged it.
Shelton believes that Sharon wrote this letter to ex-wife number 3 in early October, asking her to burn down his home.
I have got a bass fiddle in there that $10,000 wouldn't even look at it.
A week ago Tuesday, the remains of a fire were found in his house, a burned table with accelerant on it, and what was left of his spit cup, which spilled and extinguished the flames.
This is the kind of tobacco I chew, and this is what I feel that saved my home.
Shelton says his ex-wife confessed to detectives. He's thankful his fiance's dogs and thousands of dollars worth of instruments weren't destroyed.
I'd like to dedicate this directly to Sharon. All the good times have passed and gone.
Shelton's not sure why she would do something like this.
There was a very deep bond. I love the woman.
He believes Sharon has fled the area.
But at this point, I hope I never see her again.
But he says the whole ordeal reminds him of many of the bluegrass songs he's so fond of singing.
Little darling, don't you weep no more.
Sharon Shelton is charged with attempted arson, breaking and entering, and burning personal property. And to hear all of Gerald Shelton's song, you can go to our website, WLOS.com, and click on Raw News. Frank?
I love to pet them. I mean, that's my pet. I can pick it up and pet it, get it to stand on my arm. I mean, it takes work, but if you're good to them, they will get to where they're good to you.
Jeremiah Profit and friend Jesse Silvers breed chickens in Yancey County. Their lawn is filled with cages for roosters, which sell for $25 to $50 each. Both say these male birds are used for breeding and for display at fairs and other farming events.
Them roosters we keep them fed good. They're in good health. We give them antibiotics. I mean, they're in good shape. They're wormed. They've been wormed more than I have in my life.
You just hear roosters crowing 24/7. You hear them at 4 o'clock in the morning out here on the porch. You hear them till 1, 2 in the morning. It's just constant roosters.
Robert DeStefano says he and other neighbors are sick of it. He believes the roosters are bred to fight each other, an old-time sport that's illegal.
You have one rooster to one cage. I don't think they're going to Colonel Sanders.
You have to separate them. I mean, if I was going to, raise them to fight, I mean, I'd just let them fight.
You're not cockfighting?
We are not cockfighting them.
Still, some neighbors say this front yard display brings down the value of other homes in the area. The men say to avoid further conflict with their neighbors, they're going to move the roosters to another location, but they're not giving up on the business. They say they can't afford to. In Yancey County, Charu Kumarhia, News 13.
A Henderson County senior will graduate on time thanks to an unlikely tutor. Good afternoon, I'm Darcel Grimes.
And I'm Larry Blunt. 18-year-old J.J. Jarvis was in a terrible car accident last August. It killed one of his classmates and seriously injured him and another student.
News 13's Charu Kumarhia joins us now. Charu, J.J. suffered a traumatic brain injury because of the accident.
Yes, and it was that injury that was standing in the way of his goals. But as J.J. laid there in neurotrauma ICU, a hero came to the family's rescue.
I knew he was alive because he would yell.
Sometimes out of life's saddest stories.
I'd go back to see him and he would be fairly stable, and then 2 hours later he would be back in danger.
You get the most inspiring ones.
I just love teaching. I think it's important to do what I do.
It seems unbelievable. J.J. Jarvis, a star student and football player, suffered tremendous injuries, all because of this accident.
And there he was, completely out of it, in a coma. And I said, I want to offer my services.
Ken Rash is a retired teacher who met J.J. while subbing at West Henderson High.
He is the man, big time. He is now my honorary grandfather.
I think it's important to give back what's been given to you. If you receive a gift and you just take it and say, gee, this is nice, and hang on to it, that's no good.
They worked countless hours together at the family's table.
The brain is a muscle, you have to exercise it. Whenever we first started out, yeah, we were only able to go for 10, 20 minutes.
Through it all, the former Marine never took it easy on JJ.
At one point in time, he said, look, you've got this much you got to get done. We've got to get this much accomplished in 3 weeks. And that was, I thought it was way too much to do. But it's like him, he pushed me to the limits whenever I didn't want to do anything. He made sure I done it.
He was persistent, but patient.
We couldn't have made it without him.
Both JJ and Rash say the lesson is never give up and never take life's blessings for granted.
And to have my mom feed me. Do you know how degrading that is on a 17, almost 18-year-old boy? Yeah, he's got that big testosterone thing going, yeah, I'm big and bad. Whenever you get brought down to a point like that, that's a reality check.
JJ Jarvis graduates with his classmates on June 11th, and he plans to go to Blue Ridge Community College to study nursing. Larry? As these temperatures continue to fall, let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Mike Cuevas, who joins us live. some of the greatest works of art in the world find refuge in the mountains. During World War II, there was a real concern that Washington's National Gallery could be bombed. And it's really surprising because look at this. You can still see the driver's tire marks. This driver was still spinning the tires even though this firewall had stopped her. Well, depending on how you look at this, it's either a nuisance or a lifesaver, but a mountain farmer says kudzu is the ladder for farmers fighting drought. And they considered it a bit dangerous. Now tonight, folks who live near the plant are being told to stay inside. That's going to pit me and my husband against each other, won't it?
Oh, well.
Oh, well. Yeah, that's right, Edward.
Interesting to see how that turns out. See ya.
Karen, we're expecting some rain.
Charu, did the suspect have anything to say today in court?
Not much, Tammy. Eduardo Wong II is now formally charged with first-degree murder, and News 13 has learned a lot about his criminal history. It's quite extensive. He's been charged in Florida with assault, carrying concealed weapons, and resisting officers with violence. In court, Eduardo Wong II showed little emotion, even as District Court Judge Monica Leslie told him his alleged crime, killing 24-year-old Highway Patrol Officer David Blanton, was punishable by lethal injection.
Did the magistrate give you a copy of the warrant that was filed against you?
I believe so.
The North Carolina Highway Patrol tells News 13 Blanton had stopped Wong for a routine traffic violation. They may never know exactly what it was that caused the young officer to pull over the 37-year-old, but they do believe that he shot Blanton at least twice and then stole his weapon.
I can tell you that there were 3 guns in the suspect's vehicle, a pickup truck, one of them being Trooper Blanton's revolver.
Wong fled and was caught a short time later after firing again at a Haywood County officer. The SBI searched Blanton's cruiser for evidence Wednesday morning. News 13 has learned through search warrants that drugs were found in Wong's vehicle, including oxycodone and marijuana. His probable cause hearing has been set for July 9th.
Yeah, it's bad. It's a bad day for Haywood County, and it's a bad day for the state of North Carolina. He was a young officer, did a good job, and everybody needs their prayers and thoughts need to be with his family.
Of course, a lot of people very upset about this today. As you can see behind me, the flags here are flying at half-staff. An autopsy will be performed on Trooper Blanton. And through warrants that News 13 has obtained, we've also learned that investigators have taken a blood sample from Wong to determine exactly how impaired he was last night. Of course, the story is far from being over. Most college campuses are gun-free zones, but mass shootings like the one at Virginia Tech have students and staff worried. Now some say the right to bear arms should extend to campus. Chris Hickman carries a Glock 9mm with him at all times.
You take your time and say you're working on accuracy. It can take 30 minutes.
He practices once a week, firing 50 rounds, trying to keep on target. But one place Hickman will not and cannot bring his gun is to class.
Shooting up somebody.
Hickman is getting an associate's degree in criminal justice from AB Tech. The 21-year-old wants to be an Asheville police officer, but before he protects the average citizen, he wants to protect his classmates.
Even though we live in the South and it's commonplace to grow up with firearms at a young age, a lot of people don't, and they don't understand the concept of it. Then they associate it with violence and murder.
Hickman, along with thousands of other students across the country, wants to be able to bring legal weapons onto campus.
I'm not really concerned with how students feel. I'm not worried about how I feel. The point is, am I safer? Does this make me safer or not? And we don't believe it does.
The concealed campus movement argues that gun-free zones have not kept colleges weapon-free.
He knows that's the place to go to be unopposed and a place where he can find a condensed group of people to commit a massacre.
In order to get a concealed carry permit, you have to be 21. You have to go to a class with a certified instructor and pass an extensive background check. It takes 3 to 4 months. Law enforcement officers say crimes are rarely, if ever, committed by permit holders because their handguns and fingerprints are registered with the FBI. But some say that doesn't mean all concealed carry permit holders should be packing a pistol.
There's lots of people that can legally own them, but I think we would agree that there are some people that probably shouldn't have them. I just couldn't tell you who they are.
And that's a problem. Chris Fay is the chair of the Criminal Justice Department at AB Tech. He's worked in law enforcement for 25 years and has concerns.
Time, distance, and movement are your enemies.
Fay says firearms carry huge liabilities, even for trained police officers.
Accuracy isn't there reliably every time, and you add stress into an event, and though we're talking about police officers who train fairly heavily, even at times their accuracy has proven to not be there when it needed to be.
Plus, a gun can be stolen or accidentally discharged.
I wish that the perspective of experienced law enforcement could help, but it probably throws out more questions than it does answers.
Students have mixed opinions.
That's actually entirely the wrong direction to go. I think what needs to happen is more stringent policies on gun control.
I think with all the stuff that happened at Virginia Tech, I think it's smart and very wise.
Anybody who's got a weapon is a risk. I kind of have mixed emotions on the thing. I mean, I think of it as a good way. If something does happen, then we will have those people that have concealed weapons. But then again, how do you know that somebody's not going to trigger them and make them mad?
Chris Hickman says you can think of a million different scenarios of what could go wrong if he was allowed to bring his weapon on campus. But, he says, as much as this gun can take a life, it can also save one.
It doesn't stop these people from coming on campus, and it keeps happening over and over again.
The gun-free zone designation is made by the state for campuses in order for concealed carry permit holders to be allowed to bring their guns to schools. The state legislature would have to change the law. So far, Utah is the only state to allow weapons onto college campuses. They did, Holly. The owner offered them some work this morning, but instead the employees chose to spend the day outside, letting people know what was going on.
I was really sorry to see this.
After driving in from Linville, John Mosby was upset to find out his favorite Asheville hangout was no more.
I come to town about once a month, and this is always a stopping spot, a must do.
Employees found out Sunday the owner offered to let them have the leftover food. Instead, they opted to do this: make breakfast for anyone who stops by.
And I thought they were having a bake sale, and I was looking for breakfast before I went to work, and so I turned back around, and I was like, that's not a bake sale.
It's a very vibrant place, and it's a part of my day every single day.
Because they saw the same faces, there's no turnover. They saw the devotion, they understand this is a worker-run place.
I understand they're angry and disenfranchised and upset, and I'm the bad guy, but I've done everything I could to help them.
Owner Dan Bangert has put his life savings into the business. He says rising food and fuel costs contributed to its closure. Some employees say it's important to support local businesses before they're gone.
I don't want you to be traumatized when you come to get a sandwich like you did here today, and luckily we can make them in the parking lot.
The owner hopes that someone will come along and buy Gourmet Perks. It is for sale, and the employees say they may try to work out a deal where they can run it as a co-op.